Hello, everyone, and welcome to Movie Goodness, where we examine life through cinema here on the KB Radio Network. I am your host, Kevin Reed, and this is the spoiler talk of Marvel Studios' latest addition to the MCU, Thunderbolts, which is currently in theaters. And I've seen it twice. And I know you're probably sitting there thinking, like, it's only been out a day. Well, I've seen it twice. It is what it is. You know how when you go see a movie or you probably see a TV show or episode of a show, whatever, you see something and it just sticks with you, you know, in a good way. It sticks with you and you can't figure out why. You can't put your finger on why is this living rent free in my head? Why is this movie? Why is this TV show? Why is this whatever living rent free in my head? And Thunderbolts, when I walked out the theater the first time, it from that moment on, it has just been chiseled into the base of my skull, and I can't let it go. So I had to watch it again. Went and watched it again to see if this was a mirage. Was I just tripping? You know, was it something that I was just craving? Did I see something that wasn't there, or whatever the case may be? I wanted to really give an honest assessment of this movie. Well, before we get into the spoiler talk, let me just say my initial review was completely accurate, and nothing has changed there. And if you want to hear that review, the non-spoiler review, it's up on the channel, it's up on the page. So check that out. But this isn't a review. This is more of just a talk. We're gonna talk spoilers, things I couldn't get into in my first review of this film, and a lot of things I wanted to touch on and I couldn't. And so I decided to do this episode of the show. And at first I wasn't, you know, I normally do this for Marvel films or, big IPs. I'll do a review, then come back and do a spoiler discussion and whatnot. But I wasn't going to do it for Thunderbolts. And I just couldn't let it go. I had to talk about it. I had to let it out. Thunderbolts is a superhero film based on Marvel Comics featuring the team Thunderbolts, which has nothing to do with this movie. That's the first spoiler. The Thunderbolts from the comics are not these Thunderbolts. This is something completely different. And as we go through the spoiler talk, I'm going to tell you what it is, or I shouldn't say tell you what it is. If you're listening to this episode and you have not seen the movie, I'm going to say yet again, this is spoilers. So I'm assuming that everyone who is listening to this episode has seen Thunderbolts. So we're just going to chat it up as we're sitting around the water cooler. We're going to talk as if we all seen the movie together. And so the first spoiler, Thunderbolts, not the Thunderbolts from the comic. We know that in the comics, Thunderbolts was a team assembled by Thaddeus Ross, hence the name. And it's a whole different story. This here is the new Avengers. That's the big voila that they threw on everybody at the end of this movie. And I knew it, going into it, especially when they hit you with that asterisk. I knew that either they're going to be the Dark Avengers or the New Avengers, and they went with New Avengers, and I'm all for it. This was a excellent movie in that regard because this is the new team. This is the team. Now, over on the other side, you have Sam Wilson, Captain America. He's assembling the team as well. He has the official Avengers team, but he hasn't put anybody together. And, I don't know who would want to join him after that movie, after Brave New World, but whatever. In reality, Sam Wilson has been through it all. He's been through the did he go through the no, he wasn't there for the first one, but he was there for Thanos and all that. So, you know, he's experienced in that regard. Bucky is as well. The Bucky has been there. I mean, Bucky is about what 90 years old at this point, and so he's been through it all as well. Sometimes on the other side, but he's been through it nonetheless. But Captain America is Captain America. Who doesn't want to join that team? And especially with the new Avengers here, you have Elena, you have Red Guardian, you have Bucky, you have John Walker and Ghost. These are misfits. These are anti-heroes at best. You know, at some point in the MCU, all of these characters were antagonists or villains. So this film was kind of a bootleg Suicide Squad for Marvel, but which I feared. I was hoping that it wasn't a Suicide Squad ripoff. You know, just be itself, and it wasn't. It like I said, this movie does a good job of introducing these characters, even though we've been introduced to all of these characters at some point throughout the MCU, and this film really dives into those characters and redeem these characters who were, as I mentioned before, villains at one point, or anti-heroes, or just antagonists, because you can make the argument Alexei or Red Guardian, he never was a villain. You know, he was just an antagonist in Black Widow. And actually, he wasn't the antagonist in that movie. He was just their father, you know, Scarlett Johansson's and Florence Pugh's father in that movie. So he was never a bad guy. You know, Elena, she's done some bad things, and they go in depth in this film as these characters face their past, or forced to face their past throughout the film. She's done some heinous things throughout her life, that she has to account for, that she has to atone for, and that is really weighing her down and eating her up from the inside out. So she gets redeemed, and as I mentioned in my initial review, this is her movie. This is Florence Pugh's movie. This is Elena's movie. We follow her throughout. This is her journey, her arc, and you know they couldn't pick anybody better than Florence Pugh. She is an exceptional actor. She is so good. It makes you question, is she getting her proper due? You know, do she get her flowers as she deserves them? Because she is phenomenal, man. She is phenomenal in everything. And she owns this character, owns it. She single-handedly saved Hawkeye for me on Disney Plus. Hawkeye was all right, you know, but it was treading too boring until she popped up in the middle of that season and really turned everything on his head, and you got more engaged with the show. She's just that type of actress, and that character is just phenomenal. It makes you forget about Scarlett Johansson's Black Widow, because her Black Widow feels more connectable, you know, more relatable. And I mean, and that's no shade on Scarlett. You know, when she died in Endgame, you know, I shed a tear. So it wasn't like that I didn't care for the character, but it's just the fact that Florence Pugh just dialed it up to 11 and basically given her own movie here. Ghost is a character that was just thrown into Ant-Man and the Wasp. Really had no story, no arc, no nothing. You know, she was the antagonist in that film, and it was wasted. And that's not on what's her name? Hannah John-Kamen. I couldn't get it out. It's not on her. It's not an indictment on her, but all Marvel films at some point, I shouldn't say all, I apologize for that, but most of Marvel's films in this franchise, they've been lacking with the villains. And that's the knock on a lot of them, the way they just throw in these mustache trailing villains. And she was one of them. It was like one note. Yeah. So to see her in this film and get more of a story, it wasn't completely flushed out, her character, but at least we connected with her in here. We didn't have time to connect with her in Ant-Man and Ant-Man and the Wasp. And so it felt good to get that. John Walker, played by Wyatt Russell, the son of Kurt Russell. In case you don't know, I don't know how you could. I mean, you just look at him. But he got redeemed. That character was introduced to us in Falcon and the Winter Soldier on Disney Plus, and he was a prick, man. He was just an a-hole on that show. That character was so unlikable, and that was on purpose. That was on purpose, and they did a good job with it. You just couldn't stand him, man. He was MAGA Captain America, and he was just I don't know. He's just the most punchable character you gonna find in the MCU, and for them to redeem this character and it be earned, and for it to make sense and for it to work, it was phenomenal. Just on that alone makes this movie phenomenal. To the point whereas I love Wyatt Russell, I love John Walker. He was so good. He was funny. When he needed to be funny, he was serious when he needed to be serious, and everything just clicked. Taskmaster. Here's the other spoiler for everybody. You often wondered why you didn't see Taskmaster in a lot of the promotional material. Because she dies 5 minutes into the movie. Done. I felt so bad for the actress. Olga Kurylenko, I think that's how you say her name. Real good actress, man. She was in a James Bond movie. She was in several movies. I think she was in that movie with Tom Cruise, Oblivion, and she was good. She's been good in a lot of films that I've seen her in, so she's a real good actress. And she got kind of roped into this role from Black Widow, and as Taskmaster. I know a lot of people was upset that Taskmaster is a woman and whatnot when Black Widow came out. That didn't bother me. I didn't care about the gender swapping because, it's Taskmaster. And that's mainly a Captain America villain. And so I often wondered why they put her in Black Widow, but hey, whatever. They're smarter than me, definitely richer than me. And so they can make those decisions. But this this go around with Taskmaster, oh my God. I don't know if they succumb to the pressure of people not liking that character from Black Widow or whatever the case may be. They 86'd her pretty quick. And it makes you ask the question, why was she even in the movie? It made no sense. And one of my knocks, and I couldn't talk about it in my initial review, but I can talk about it now. One of the knocks that drove me crazy was the fact that Ghost is the one that killed her. Ghost killed Taskmaster. It was so easy. It was so easy. She just put a gun in her head and it popped. Like, this Taskmaster. You didn't see that coming. Now, granted, she teleported right in front of her in a second, and as soon as she was visible, she pulled the trigger. I get all that, but it was just anticlimactic, but we didn't have time to connect with that. We had no connection to that character at all, so it was no impact at all, when they did it. And the Ghost character, there was no repercussions for that. There was no like, oh, I wish I didn't do it, anything, because she was roped into this. She was conned into doing this because they all were sent into this place to murder one another by Valentina, and the only one that got 86th was Taskmaster, but the team didn't call her out on it. Even Elena, who knows Taskmaster, there wasn't any calling out on it. I'm not saying rake her across the coals or anything, what I'm saying, but just like I wish things would have been different. I wish I wouldn't have you know, it was just real anticlimactic. That's all I'm saying. It didn't need to be. But aside from that, I get why the group came together. It was cool. They had odds. I mean, we meet them when they all come together. They're literally trying to kill each other. One succeeded, and so they are at each other's throats. And for this movie to end and they're the Avengers was amazing. And throughout the runtime of this movie, it was earned. Their friendship was earned. Their bond was earned. And that's why I love this movie so much. It wasn't thrown together. Oh, they're the Avengers now. It's five of them. So, okay, they're the new Avengers. No, it was a real earned experience for them. Just think back to the first Avengers film when Tony Stark was fighting Thor, after they had caught Loki, and Captain America came down and he joined in, and they were at each other's throats when they was on the helicarrier and all this other stuff. And then suddenly, they're attacked. They had to band together. It didn't work out the first time they band together. Colston died, and that kind of drove them to come together and become the Avengers. They officially didn't become the Avengers until the end of that movie, until that epic shot where the camera's spinning around them in Times Square or wherever they was at in New York, and with Black Widow loading up the gun, Hulk's roaring, and Tony is flying in, Hawkeye got the bow. That epic sweeping shot. That's the moment they became the Avengers. So here in this movie, the moment when they pull Bob out of the void, that's when they became the new Avengers. And it was earned. And speaking of Bob, if you read the comics, and I think the character of Sentry is fairly new, and I say new, within the last 20 years that character has came to be in comics. I didn't follow him as much. I know of him. The best I can describe it as, he's an unhinged Superman. He's basically overpowered as you can get, and he's just thrown off. He has mental issues. So here in the movie, the character is played by Louis Pullman, who is the son of Bill Pullman, and man, did he do an awesome job as Bob. He did an amazing job. You know how difficult of a performance that is? He's comical, he's goofy, he's awkward, antisocial, an introvert, and just a lovable guy. And at the same time, he can flip it, and he is probably the most menacing dark character you're gonna see. In an instant. I mean, bruh, bruh, I was so impressed with that. So impressed, because you can't help but not like Bob. If you don't like the character of Bob, even if you didn't like the movie, which I don't understand, but even if you didn't like the movie, there is no way you did not like Bob. I can't. Please, if any one of you dislike the character of Bob of Sentry, let me know. And when you let me know, please, and keep it civil here. Let me know, and please give me a reason why, a real reason why. I don't want to hear, oh, his hair. And I didn't like the way they had his hair. No, the character. I need to know what it was. That dude is amazing. Louis Pullman was phenomenal. At one point, Stephen Young was going to play Sentry. Stephen Young from The Walking Dead. He does the voice of Invincible on Invincible. He was in Beef. Phenomenal actor. I would have loved to seen him in this role, but after seeing Louis Pullman in it, hey, I'm with Louis Pullman on this, but he did awesome. And that's not to say that Stephen Young wouldn't have did great. But uh, yeah, man, I can't see nobody else play this character. And it was fun to watch that. It was really fun to watch his character throughout this film. Speaking of the character of Sentry, when he officially became Sentry, and you know, the scene when he took on the Thunderbolts, they were still the Thunderbolts at this point. He just wiped the floor with him, and the way they had him, and I guess that's how he is in the comics. He is unstoppable. There's nothing that can stop him. Absolutely nothing. Once he gets to that point, and that's the scary part about his character. He gets to that point and he enters the void, and there's no way. Well, I ain't gonna say no way, but it's gonna be a tough task to try to get him back. He is that powerful. I mean, think about it. He took on actually three. He took on three super soldiers, a character that can teleport. she was tele Ghost was teleporting around him, and he just found her, figured where she was, and choked her. Uh, Elena, the most skilled assassin on planet Earth, that just wiped the floor with her. It was nothing. It was like he didn't even break a sweat. His hair didn't move. The only problem I had with that scene, once again, couldn't get into it because in my initial review because of spoilers, but the problem I had with it, the special effects in this scene was very wonky. It was you could tell that was not Louis Pullman, and it was really noticeably bad. And at certain points, I'm like, because I wanted that to hit a little harder, and it didn't. Especially the second time I watched it, I was like, oh, it looks even worse. But I accepted it for what it was. But that was a bad. What makes it so bad? The rest of the movie, the special effects was really good, really good. I love the void effects. I love the effects when he was all black. The void, he was at the actual void. That was cool. The effects when they were in the void and going from room to room, and it was a different, place in their life or a different moment in their life. That was cool. It was just that one scene. That one scene when he was taking on the Thunderbolts. But it is what it is. Let's get into the main thing of this movie that really connected with me, and that is the theme. The theme of mental health. And it's amazing. It's amazing to me how you can weave in a serious issue that a vast majority of the population go through, and that's mental health. Because I have a theory. I don't have any numbers in front of me. I can't sit here and tell you, statistically, this many people have mental health issues. But I have a theory. I believe every person walking God's green earth has a touch of mental illness in some shape, form, or fashion. Some people deal with anxiety. Some people deal with depression. Some people deal with, social anxiety and stuff like that. I mean, everybody has a quirk, but everybody don't have the same degree, the same tolerance level or whatever the case may be. So most people who are in serious mental health issues that deal with schizophrenia and stuff like that, they need help. And even those with lesser degrees, I guess you can say, like me, I have mental health issues, with my anxiety, and it's so bad, getting panic attacks, catching panic attacks out of the blue, and stuff like that, and having panic attacks that literally, I think I'm having a heart attack, and that makes it even worse. And so it's I don't consider myself to the high levels, the omega level of mental health concerns, but it is a concern. And I do take medicine, so everybody can relax. I did seek help in some shape, form, or fashion. I probably still need more, depending on who you ask, namely my wife. Yeah, I probably do need more help, but I did seek help. But so that's my encouragement to you. If you going through anything, whatever it is, mentally, and it feels like you're alone, go see some help. Go talk to somebody. If you're embarrassed, because I know a lot of things are you embarrassed. Especially men. Men, we get that macho thing in, like, oh, I'm talking to nobody about my problems and stuff. Nah, go talk to somebody. Because it's gonna eat you from the inside out, and that's gonna make it worse. And I say all that to say that Thunderbolts touched in on that. The character of Bob, who has experienced childhood trauma. He was a drug addict. He went through so much in his life. He's dealing with all this trauma, and he's gotten this power, this like godlike power. And he has to, well, I'm not going to say balance, because he can't balance it. He has to suppress his powers, because if he uses his powers, this trauma, this mental illness that he has will take over and pretty much take over the world. He almost took over New York City. Actually, he did for a second or two. He took over New York City, and man, that was crazy. All because of his trauma. And the money shot, the moment of this movie when the team got together. No, it wasn't punches and kicks and gunfire that saved the day. It was love that saved the day. And I know that seems cheesy and corny, and but the way it was done, honestly, I got emotional in the movie. The way it was done, they all came together. First, it was Elena, who went and grabbed Bob to pull him off of the void, as he was punching the void, beating the void. But the more he was beating on the void, he was being overtaken by the void. And so the only way to stop it was to pull him away, to get him to realize that he's not alone, because that was his biggest fear, of being alone. And a lot of people's fear is being alone. And his was being alone, and Elena was there trying to pull him off, and she was whispering in his ear, "You're not alone." And just then, everybody else came and grabbed him and just pulled him as a team. And at that moment, they became the new Avengers. And I was like, man, this is amazing. I can't believe they pulled this off. They really pulled this off. I mean, wow. You know what I'm saying? It was so cool. And like I said earlier, this was all earned. This was not cheap. This, I'm not going to say it makes up for 5 years of meddling films that has been released since Endgame, but my God, it feels good to know that we have a sense of direction going forward. And if this is the new team that we're going to rally behind, cheer for going forward, just like we cheered for Iron Man, Cap, Hulk, Thor, Natasha, I'm all for it. This is the team I would gladly cheer for going forward, fighting against Doctor Doom and whatever else we got going forward. Speaking of Doctor Doom, let's talk about that post-credit scene, shall we, before we get out of here? That post-credit scene, that is probably the best post-credit scene since Endgame. We finally got a post-credit scene that actually set something up, that actually made you feel like there's a bigger universe out there, and isn't just thrown in there for giggles. It was actually thought through, actually gets you excited for what's coming next. They've gotten a distress beacon, and Elena is worried about it. Everybody else is kind of cracking jokes, doing their thing and whatnot. And she gets the visual puts it on the screen. We see a rocket ship coming towards Earth. And as soon as I saw that rocket ship, I was like, it's the Fantastic Four. And as soon as I said it, and you can hear the little song, the score for the Fantastic Four, which they released like 2 years ago. I don't know why they did it, but I'm glad they did. I love that score by Michael Giacchino. But the score is faintly heard in the background, and then you see the rocket rotate, and you see the number 4 on the rocket, and that was that. And we know in a couple of months, Fantastic Four will drop in theaters. So that gave you an excitement, not only for Fantastic Four, but Doomsday, which comes out next year. Because obviously this is set, at least that post-credit scene is set after the Fantastic Four movie. Apparently they have left their universe or dimension, wherever they're coming from, and they're heading to our planet. They're heading to our timeline. So whatever happened on their world with Galactics and Silver Surfer, it doesn't sound like, or it doesn't look like it turned out too well for them in that movie. But yeah, the whole thing gets you excited for what's next. How is this going to play out, especially going into Avengers Doomsday? And how is it going to play out with the two Avengers teams? You know, the one led by Sam Wilson and this new Avengers team. I guess you could say indirectly assembled by Elena, or not Helena, but Valentina. And so we'll see. It's so much. Yeah, it has a lot of questions, but that's good. That's what you want. That's what Marvel films were doing in the past, and they addressed those questions. They answered those questions down the line. What's been happening for the past couple of years? There have been a million questions raised, no answers. No answers. We have post-credit scenes that we're never going to get an answer to. You know, well, I will say not in the near future. We're not going to get an answer to the new T'Challa in Black Panther Wakanda Forever. How is he going to age up, you know, and help the Avengers moving forward? We're not going to get an answer to the Council of Kangs at the end of Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, because Kang is no longer a thing. You know, it was cool. It was cool that they quote unquote killed Kang in Quantumania at the end, but then you tacked on that post-credit scene with the whole Kang army, you know, the whole Kang dynasty. We're not going to get an answer to that because of the whole Jonathan Majors of it all. So it's just a lot of things that they could have done differently, and they didn't, you know. But it is what it is. I'm planting my flag right here with Thunderbolts and moving forward. I'm not even thinking about nothing else that happened before this movie, because this was a excellent Marvel Studios film, excellent MCU film, and I'm happy. I'm just happy. I thought it was going to be good. I didn't know it was going to be awesome, and that's what brings me joy, and that's what made me go see it twice, and that what made me want to talk to you again about this movie. But I would like to know, how did you feel about Thunderbolts? Hopefully you've seen it if you sat through this whole episode. You know, I really do. I hope you've seen it. And if you haven't, and you just wanted to hear spoilers, God bless you, still go see the movie. It is worth a theatrical experience. But I would love to know your thoughts. Email the show, kbradiopodcast@gmail.com. You can also search for the show on all social media platforms. Just search for the KB Radio Network. Also, don't forget about the 5 stars, the reviews, and sharing this show if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, wherever you are currently listening to movie goodness here on the KB Radio Network. Everybody, thank you for joining me for this spoiler discussion of Marvel Studios Thunderbolts, aka the New Avengers. I want you all to know that I love you. Continue to love everyone. And until we speak again, you all be blessed.